All right, John, now that everybody on the entire internet has talked about Star Wars The Last Jedi in every way, shape, and form, hey, you want to talk about Star Wars The Last Jedi?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, hey, this is something that's a little bit different. I'm going to be just putting... John and I are kind of recording this like a podcast, but I'm just going to be putting some of the Battlefront 2 The Last Jedi level footage over this so that people have something to look at. But,
Pretty pictures.
Yes. So, hey, everybody, I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
And we're going to talk about The Last Jedi. And let's just be real clear here from the beginning. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoilers abound. We are going to casually talk about everything that happens in this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, please go see it first. Please go see it first. Please go see it first. So before we jump into it, I wanted to say, I wanted to talk a little bit about my mindset going into the movie. Because I feel like when we talk about it, that there's going to be some things that come up. I've been thinking about this a lot, and a lot of times I'll overthink a thing, and then it's harder to kind of get out the idea that I'm thinking. But I did want to get this out of the way before we started, because I feel like it really does speak to why I liked Star Wars The Last Jedi so much. My expectation / faith / what I wanted from a Star Wars movie walking into The Last Jedi was very low. So, frankly, to be real honest, Star Wars The Last Jedi or the Star Wars franchise is something that I feel like I've drifted further and further away from as time has gone on.
Yeah.
So as a kid, I mean, A New Hope came out the year before I was born, but I went when I was 2 years old. My dad took me to go see Empire Strikes Back in the theater. As a kid, in the 80s, Star Wars was everywhere. I remember going to go see Return of the Jedi. I remember to go see the remasters, and I got to see all the original stuff when it came out on VHS. Which that happened when I was, when I was a kid, and I really liked it. Now, I will say this, that I feel like I've always been a little cool on Return of the Jedi. Blowing up the Death Star again and the Ewoks. The Ewoks never
bothered me either.
No, it never did anything for me. I actually disliked the Ewoks quite a bit,
okay.
and I didn't like the fact that they kept making those the Ewok movie spin-offs.
I actually like the Ewok movies, but that's just me.
I feel like a lot of people do. In fact, Jason is from time to time.
Those movies are fucking terrible.
Tried to tell me about how the Ewoks are. Oh man, they're just so edgy, and they're like little cannibal motherfuckers. And I'm just like, the Empire has laser guns. I know they're little cannibal teddy bears, but they have laser guns and body armor, and the Ewoks have sticks and logs. And we'll come back to that in a minute. Then came the prequel trilogy, which I'm not ashamed to admit I liked when I first saw it. And it was probably because I spent so long without any Star Wars that I eventually liked it. Again, I've cooled over time to the prequel trilogy. I actually think that there's a good story in the prequel trilogy. I just think it's badly executed.
Oh, it's badly edited. I will say that it's very badly. It's interesting. I actually think the trilogy gets better. The original, the prequel trilogy actually gets better with each movie.
Yes, I agree. I would agree with that.
But yeah, that first movie is fucking terrible.
It's real and
edited wise. I mean, there's a good movie somewhere in there.
Yeah,
but
it's actually a good plot. It's just that I don't think that George Lucas as a director is the best.
Yeah.
And it's worth remembering also that the first two... was he the director on...
He was the director of A New Hope.
Okay.
He did not direct Empire Strikes Back, and he only directed half of Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
Because I think, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, someone will probably correct me, that there was a different director who left because of George's hand meddling.
Episode 7 comes out. I liked it when I saw it in the theater. It ended up being, over time, I liked it less and less. Rogue One, I just didn't really care for. So going into this movie, I was like, I liked Star Wars, and I would be interested in seeing a Star Wars movie that I like. But to date, there was a lot of things that the Star Wars franchise focused on that I was starting to get tired of. Specifically, the fact that Episode 1 through 6, and in a certain way, Rogue One and 7, there's a real heavy theme of Skywalkers and their place in the galaxy, right?
Well, that's kind of what all the movies are supposed to be.
Right. And I've always thought that the universe was really interesting outside of that, and that we never get a chance for that because we're always dealing with these motherfucking Skywalkers. So, going into The Last Jedi, I didn't really have... I mean, I wanted to see it. I was kind of excited, but I wasn't just like, can't wait. But I really, really liked it. And one of the reasons that I really liked it is I feel like one of the reasons that people really disliked it is because it kind of fucks up that track that they're on. That to me, it devalues a lot of the stuff that I feel like a lot of longtime hardcore Star Wars fans are into, and that is a thing that that has upset them, in my opinion. For example, Rey's parents, right?
Yeah.
The movie says Rey's parents don't fucking matter, and a lot of people who are just like rabble, rabble, rabble. She was supposed to be like a Kenobi or a Palpatine or like
that was just
whatever. Like that was my idea of what she was supposed to be. And how could she just be nobody and still be powerful and have access to the Force?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I loved that. I love the idea.
I do too.
That she's not just a fucking another Skywalker. I love the things that it does to essentially shit on the franchise or shit on the canon, as people would say it.
I don't really feel like it shits on the canon, though.
Yeah.
I don't feel like. I feel like it actually embraces the canon, but also points out that change has to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's not saying that stuff is shit and forget about it. It's that's what, the character of Kylo Ren is saying, fuck all of it and forget about it.
Yeah.
But also the other side of it is, don't be so beholden to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one side, the Kylo Ren is saying, fuck all of it, it doesn't matter. But the other side of it, Luke is essentially saying, learn from it. Move on. Like, be better.
I just...
Like, that's kind of what Luke's story is you got to learn from your mistakes.
Right. I guess, to me, the theming in all of it seemed to be moving away from the idea of just, like, the light side versus the dark side, and that's this whole story. There's always there's a guy with a black cowboy hat and a guy with a white cowboy hat, and they're going to fight, and the white cowboy hat guy is going to win.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I liked about it, was the fact that the good guys don't really win. A lot of people don't like that. Like for a specific example, Canto Bite, which I think goes on for a little too long.
Yeah.
But I like it because it shows that the universe is not made up of just Sith and just Jedi. There's also these other people that could ostensibly be good or bad or whatever. They sell, X-Wings to rebels and TIE fighters to the First Order. Yeah. Are they bad guys? I like the fact that it's got a little bit more moral ambiguity than just like, here is the literal dark side and here's the literal light side. And the good guys are on the light side and the bad guys are on the dark side, and they're going to fight, and that the light side's going to win. Like, I like the fact that it's a little bit more ambiguous. I found myself identifying when Kylo Ren says, forget the past, let's make a new future. I'm like, yeah, Kylo Ren. I like that. I'm on your side. In fact, I was really hoping that when he kind of tempts Rey with joining together, that he would have just stopped shooting those ships for a second so that she could have considered it instead of having to, like, make this decision while all her friends were getting blown up, like, right over there in Snoke's little spyglass thing. I liked it. I think there was a lot of theming about how, what you just said, about how failure is not the end of the world, and that failing and learning from your failure is an important part of progressing, of growing as a person or as a franchise or as a story, instead of just every fucking time the good guys win, they blow up the Death Star and everybody gets to get a medal and Chewbacca roars and then the movie's over. So that's what I liked about it. Now, I 100% understand why that would make somebody who just wants to go to the movies and see the good guys win and the bad guys lose, how that would make them upset, how they would feel like robbed. But it didn't bother me because I didn't want to see that again in yet another Star Wars movie.
Well, here's the thing. It's Empire Strikes Back. They didn't win. They actually lost in Empire Strikes Back. This is just again, it's like for people saying, "Oh, well, this stuff happening, it's not. It doesn't fit with the canon." It's like fucking Empire Strikes Back, the movie everyone claims is the best fucking movie in the fucking original trilogy. The bad guys win.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose of the Empire Strikes Back is the good guys get knocked down a couple of pegs.
Yep.
And that's all that's happening in this movie.
So
now, mind you, spectacularly getting knocked down.
Yes.
To the point of that the only person that could kill the Rebel Alliance or whatever you want to call is a fucking stormtrooper by joining them.
Oh, yeah.
Now, mind you, I say that jokingly, but I do think it is kind of funny that the most damage that the Rebel Alliance has had in this new trilogy has happened specifically because Finn defected and stuff that he's done that has served no fucking purpose other than to cause more damage.
Yeah.
Mind you, Poe is part of that as well.
Yeah.
It's not just Finn on his own, but I'm just making there's the joke there that stormtroopers are so bad at their job that the only way they could actually fuck up the Rebel Alliance
about that
is
by joining them,
Yes.
and then their ineptitude will eventually destroy the Rebel Alliance. That's the big spoiler in Part 3 is that Phasma gave Finn the secret his punishment for refusing to fire in Episode 7 was she's like, all right, now you need to go break this guy out and go join the Rebel Alliance and get on their side because that's really the only way that we're going to beat them.
Yeah.
But specifically, there was a thing when I was watching all of the people that were bringing up individual problems with Star Wars: Last Jedi, and what it said to me, it triggered something in my head, which was, okay. So first of all, listening to them talk about it reminded me a lot of the problems that I had with Man of Steel.
Okay.
Specifically, that there was an expectation of how the character would work based on the previous things. And a lot of this was Luke. A lot of it was, I can't believe Luke Skywalker would act like that because I have this idea in my head of who Luke Skywalker is. The same way that when I watched Man of Steel, I was like, well, this isn't fucking Superman. Like, Superman doesn't act like this. This is some other a-hole with an S on his chest. And that got me thinking down this track of suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
So I'm sure that everybody who's listening to this probably knows what I'm talking about, but suspension of disbelief is basically, in a nutshell, the concept of things in movies happen that don't always make sense, but a lot of times we will suspend our disbelief in order to have a good time and go with the story. Like for most action movies, when people get
well, I mean, the aspect of the existence of the Force is a suspension of disbelief because in real life there is no such thing as the Force.
Right.
You can't move things with your mind like that, and so I suspend my disbelief because I believe that it happens in this universe because I'm told it does.
I was going to take it one step back to like in an action movie when somebody gets like hit and then falls down and then like just through force of will gets back up again. There's plenty of times where if you are applying how the actual human body works to say John Wick would have been dead 12 times in that movie just from, or when somebody gets into a car accident and then they just walk away from it and then like 4 minutes later we've forgotten. Or in the last Batman movie, the one with Bane, how his knee is all fucked up at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he's got to jump out of that prison at the end. He doesn't have his knee brace, his cyber knee brace.
Yeah.
And we just forget about that, right? Because it doesn't matter because we're having a good time watching the movie. But I feel like there's a moment with all suspension of disbelief where if it gets bent too far and it snaps, that then suddenly you're not willing to suspend your disbelief anymore because the things that are happening don't seem to work for you. And I feel like that was a lot of the people that saw The Last Jedi and a lot of the issues that they're throwing out there, I feel like come from that thing, that there were so many different weird things that happened that it just didn't, that suddenly it was like a domino effect, right? They got to a certain point where their suspension of disbelief was broken, and then that kind of just went all the way back through the movie, back to the beginning, and suddenly everything just seems stupid in this movie. For example, let's say a lot of people have a problem with the way that Holdo goes into hyperspace and fucks up the fleet, right?
Okay.
That moment when everything gets quiet and she does the jump and then
Yeah.
everything explodes. And people are like, well, that's not how hyperspace works. And it's like, but I don't think we've ever seen an example of this in Star Wars before.
Hyperspace isn't a real thing.
Well, yeah, and I don't think we've ever seen an example of a ship that was willingly destroying itself that close to something else.
Yeah.
To like, I it's weird to me because I don't understand where the statement "that's not how hyperspace works" comes from. In that everything we've seen over the previous movies, there's never been anything that says that it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
There's never been anything that indicates that it might not work like that.
So, if I have one complaint of a thing that's not how that works,
Right.
And it's something I was able to just look past, but I thought it was kind of funny, is that when they're running from the bad guys,
The First Order. Yeah.
and the First Order has those guns that they're shooting at them from long range.
Right.
If you notice, the guns are at an angle, and then if you notice when they shoot, the bullets arc.
Okay.
In space, in 0G, they're arcing. There's no gravity for them to arc for. In space, things go forward, and they keep going forward. Like, again...
Look, see, okay,
But
so,
again, my point is, I can look at that and go, whatever, it's stupid. I get the analogy that that they're trying to make is that World War II bombing at a distance kind of thing. That's they're trying to go for that imagery.
Sure.
And I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for it because of that. But that is gravity in space is something.
Look, they're chasing the ship.
Yeah.
Okay. If you get how space fucking works, like, if their ship is faster than the First Order ships, it means that they're both building up relative velocity to the point where every hour that they're moving, they're going faster and faster and faster because it's not like I know. There's no way that the Rebel ship doesn't outpace the Imperial ships if it's got a faster engine on it. These are things that I don't care about.
Yeah, no,
because
exactly.
That's just the story, right? You know.
Yeah. And as far as like her light speed, whatever the fuck, hyperspace destroying thing, I didn't have an issue with that.
I didn't either. People say if that's the way that it works, why don't they just do that all the time? And it's like, well, they have 4 ships.
That's because they lose their ship in the process.
Right. Also, suicide attacks have an incredibly huge effect on morale. It's like, why didn't they just do that to the Death Star? Maybe it doesn't work on a ship that's way, 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 way bigger the way the Death Star is than it does on a smaller one.
Also, all it did was hinder the ship. You'll notice it didn't destroy the ship because everyone was still on that ship.
Yep. Nope. To be honest, this is just one example of when I was watching people criticize this, and I was like, it fell into one of 2 categories for me. One was, well, that's not how this made-up thing works. And I'm like, well, in my opinion, the made-up thing could work however you want it to work. And the fact that
it's made up.
The fact that they haven't done it before, maybe that cruiser had a different type of hyperdrive on it that we've never seen before. Maybe we've never seen, maybe the when it went into hyperspace, it was way closer to those ships because there's a moment where they're shooting the escape pods and the ship is turning and he's like, forget about that ship. There's nobody even on that ship. And then when it starts to go into hyperdrive, he's like, fucking just blow it up. There's a lot of different reasons that you could put out there. But the thing is that just like all the other movies that I've had this conversation with over the years, there's nothing that I'm going to say once your suspension of disbelief has been broken that's going to make you like that movie.
Yeah.
There's no way that I'm going to be able to argue you back into enjoying The Last Jedi if the problems that you have get down to the nitty-gritty of how hyperspace works. Or that like, oh, well, I saw somebody make a thing that said Leia in space coming back to the ship means that from here forward, anybody with Jedi powers in a ship, if they get blown up, they're just going to survive in space, and they're going to be able to come back down. And so it's taken all of the drama out of anybody with Jedi powers flying a spaceship. And I just don't see that
Yeah, I don't see that
argument
either.
because
I still
little
see it.
spaceships blow up entirely.
Yeah,
or,
I also see it as a thing of that she still had a finite time frame to get to will herself to a place where she could get it. It wasn't she's alive forever in space.
Right.
It was she had to use her whatever Jedi powers there are to keep her body alive and to fly it, to force pull herself to the ship.
Yeah.
Had there been no ship around, she still would have died.
To be honest, I mean, all of the things that I've seen that people don't like I said, they either fall into the category of I don't have enough skin in the fight to be upset by it, or it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. I could make up an explanation which is sufficient, at least in my mind.
Yeah.
Now, that brings up a point of, well, do I just not care? Like, I like Speed Racer, right?
Yeah, I like Speed Racer too.
And Speed Racer is a dumb movie where the cars all drive fucking
great dumb
sideways.
That
and
movie's amazing.
The world doesn't make any sense. The story makes very little sense.
That movie is so underrated.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about that.
Yeah,
So.
but that I understand why somebody who couldn't buy into Speed Racer, who wasn't just there to have a good time, would be like, well, that's not how fucking cars work. This movie's idiotic. Like, it's stupid. But I don't bother with that. It just, on the other hand, I love the way that the movie wipes the slate clean going forward. You know what? I've seen so many people that were so upset about killing off Snoke, and I'm just like, oh, good. I don't want another Emperor. I don't want another Death Star. I don't want another Darth Vader. I love the fact that Kylo Ren smashed up his mask, and that I think he's a morally ambiguous character. I think that he's not necessarily just a fucking hulking Darth Vader, like I want to destroy the universe guy. I think that he got his own test of faith from Snoke fucking with him to break him out of the dark side a little bit. He was already wishy-washy in the beginning about, killing his dad and blah, blah, blah. I like all the things that they've done. I like...
Yeah. And also, I feel like one of the things I will say is there's been a lot of things because J.J. Abrams is coming back for the next movie.
Yes.
When originally he wasn't the director for the next movie.
Oh, okay.
It was originally going to be somebody else, and apparently there was already a script involved. J.J. Abrams came back and threw away the script.
Oh, okay.
And so a lot of people are worried that a lot of the changes that were made for the second
gonna be
movie
rolled back?
are going to be undone.
Yeah.
Snoke is the only change that I would not be upset with.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is an interesting way to bring him back that...
Darth Maul Spiderlegs, right?
Well, no. You pull what was it? The comic New Empire with the
clones.
The clones,
Yeah.
where he just comes back because he has clones, and he's like,
clones, yeah.
and he comes back and he's like, you finally got balls, good for you, and then we move on,
Right.
and we can go back to his original plan. That's fine. Or they could not do that and never bring up Snoke again. And you know what? I'm fine with that too.
I'm fine with that.
I feel like, if anything, does it suck a little bit that they kind of Snoke has this mystery that is never going to that could potentially never be resolved? Kind of. I mean, but that's what books and comics and stuff is going to be for.
This is a question that I keep coming up with, is that what was it about Snoke that was interesting?
Well,
he was a giant hologram.
It was mystery. It was just the mystery,
Right.
of what is he?
Right.
Who is he?
Right.
Where did he come from?
He's the Emperor. He's the Emperor too, and
Yeah.
he's wears gold lame instead of a black robe. But other than that, he's just a fucking another
And
Emperor.
I
He's
love-
got his red guards and his big chair.
And I also love the fact that, there were some people like, well, I don't like it because, Sith, blah, 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 blah. He never claimed to be a Sith.
It's true.
He has never referred to himself as a Sith.
Yep.
He is a Force user that knows a little bit about the Force, or knows a lot about the Force, and just happens to use dark powers, but he never calls himself a Sith.
Yeah.
That's why Kylo Ren is technically not a Sith either.
Yep. I don't know. The whole thing for me worked. The
Yeah.
only things is I thought that a little bit of the again, I thought Canto Bite went on a little bit too long. I thought BB-8, especially in Canto Bite, I didn't think there was any real reason to have him beating up and locking up all the guards. Oh, I mean, why? On the other hand, DJ is one of my favorite new characters of Star Wars in general.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that whole, people say the whole subsection in Canto Bite was worthless because they didn't succeed in their objectives. But I feel like that ties into the theme. It's weird because people say stuff like that, but the whole theme of the movie seems to be that it's not about the glorious victory every time. Yoda straight up as much says that to Luke about how it's important to learn from failure, and that's important for you, for a person moving forward. And so, yeah, Canto Bite was a failure, but it doesn't mean that segment has no value. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say that they felt like Finn had no character arc in the movie.
Oh, no, he totally did.
I feel like Canto Bite was his character arc.
I feel like it was part of his character arc.
Yeah.
Because okay. So if we look at Finn, starting with Force Awakens, coming to this movie, Force Awakens, he's a fucking coward.
Yeah.
He cares only about himself. He is trying to get away. He is running away from everything. Then it comes to a point where it gets to the point where it's like you can either run away or you can save your friend. And so then his entire mindset becomes, I'm going to save my friend.
Right.
Because I'm ashamed of the fact that I was a coward, and this person still stood by me even though I was a coward.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to change my ways. I'm going to do everything that I can save my friend. He gets hurt, gets knocked out, whatever, gets out of commission for a period of time.
Right.
Wakes up. He is still in that mindset of, I'm going to do everything in my power to save my friend. I don't give a shit about the rebellion. I don't give a shit about the bad guys. I just want to do what I can to save my friend.
Right.
I need to get as far away from and make sure that Rey never comes here because she's going to die if she comes here.
Right.
Like that's
and then when that's not an option, then we need to solve this situation so that Rey doesn't come back into an ambush. And
it goes so far to the point that he is even willing to and he fails so spectacularly at it because he's not caring about the greater good. He's caring about one specific thing.
Sure.
And then it gets to the point where he's like, you know what? I do need to care about the greater good. I need to care about the greater good so much that I am willing to sacrifice myself.
Right.
And then he has to learn that, no, that's not what you need to do either.
Right.
Like, you learn the wrong lesson.
Yeah.
And then he learns the right lesson of, okay, we need to save this what we love, not destroy what we hate.
Can I just say that
that's actually a great story arc.
Can I just say that I love that line? And that it just there's so much of the criticism that I've seen of this movie that's like, and then this cringy fucking line about, and I'm like, boy, I think that's a great saying about we're not going to win this by destroying what we hate. We're going to win it by saving what we love. And I'm like, I think that's a great line. Outside of this movie, I think it's a wonderful way of thinking about things, especially. I mean, not even just pull it out of the context of Star Wars to today and how often we want to. And I actually think it's kind of funny because so many people are attacking this movie, attacking Rian Johnson, attacking, all this. What they see is this stupid direction that Star Wars has gone into. And I'll be honest, if Star Wars veers back if J.J. Abrams basically just comes in and undoes this stuff and goes back,
I'm really hoping he doesn't undo the Rey thing.
I think that. To be honest, if he comes back and undoes it, I mean, I'm going to keep watching the Star Wars movies, but I'm just so happy. I just wish that we could go start telling non-Luke Skywalker Sith and Jedi stories.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen in the new trilogy that Rian Johnson is going to be doing. Is that he's being given the reins to do his own trilogy. It has nothing to do with the Skywalkers.
Right.
And that's what he's going to do.
Right. So that's what I hope. Also, so from this point on, I want to take just a second to complain about complaining for a brief minute. Specifically, one thing.
Okay.
I don't understand. Maybe you can embody the idea of
I will try.
Of the complaining, right? Okay. As an audience member, it may irritate you that this brand new purple hair bitch is coming in and slapping around your favorite rebel pilot who does his little fucking backstops on his space airplane and bullshit. I do not understand the complaint that General or what's her name?
I don't remember her name.
Damn it! I had it. I said hold on. That she should have told Poe her plans. That she was entirely at fault, and that if she didn't want Poe to mutiny, she should have fucking told him what he asked. When in the scene that came, or it just directly in the beginning of the movie, Poe showed that if the people that are in charge of him tell him to do a thing that he doesn't want to do, he will literally turn off his radio, stop listening to them, and get people killed. He is then demoted by General Leia to a captain instead of commander, and then he's immediately up in this person's face that he's never met before saying, you need to tell me what the plan is. And when she says, I'm not obliged to tell you what the plan is, then he mutinies, and that there's just this thing on the internet of just like, well, she should have told him. And I don't understand it because why?
Well,
I mean,
so I agree with you.
Okay.
Let me first start off by saying that. But
Okay.
to embody the complaint, because had she told him, had she said, this is in these people's minds,
Yeah, okay.
had she said, okay,
Right.
this is the plan.
Right.
We're gonna run and we're gonna get all the people off these other ships and bring them all over to our ship, and then slowly let them destroy all of our ships. And then we're gonna jettison all our pods and go to this base over here.
Right.
And we're gonna leave this one ship behind and make them think that they destroyed us, but we didn't actually. Like, let's say she says all of that plan to him.
Right.
In people's mind, he's gonna go, "Oh, that's a good plan. Let's do that."
Yeah.
You and I, in our minds, probably think he'd be like, "That is a stupid fucking plan. I'm not gonna follow that plan. Mutiny."
Well, but see, that's the thing that's weird to me about watching this movie 3 times. He does do that. He mutinies after he finds out what the plan is.
Yeah.
Once he finds out that she's sending the transports off, he calls her a traitor in front of the rest of the rebels, and she has him hauled off. She doesn't hit him or slap him or do any of that stuff. She's incredibly reserved
Yeah.
when it comes to this fucking loose cannon
Yeah.
asshole that's telling her what to do when she's the one in charge. Like, he's trying to fucking take over the ship and tell her what she needs to be doing.
Because in his mind, he feels like he should be in charge.
Right.
Because prior to getting demoted, he was considered the second in command.
Right. So I just don't understand the rationale of that bitch. If she had just
Again.
done the one thing, then it would have. And it's like, but that's not how movies work. Like,
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, in
Yeah.
people's mind, the idea is that she would tell him the plan, and he would go, "That's a good plan. Let's do that."
yeah.
You know, like that is the mentality.
Okay.
Is that they would go in their minds, he would go, "That's a good plan," or he'd go, "Okay, now that I know what the plan is, what's my part in the plan?"
Right.
You know, how can I help facilitate this plan?
Right.
Instead of him going, "That's a fucking stupid plan. We should go with this plan that I've already done behind your back."
Right.
And focus on that.
Right.
And hold out hope that these two people who are off doing something are going to, succeed spectacularly well.
Right.
And not fail at every turn.
Also, can we talk a moment about Captain Phasma?
Sure.
I've seen a lot of people bemoaning Captain Phasma was such an interesting character, and you just killed her off.
Captain Phasma suffered from Boba Fett syndrome.
Captain Phasma was Boba Fett times Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Like, she was just interesting looking. She didn't do anything. She was never even effective. She got just fucking tied up by Finn.
Captain Phasma was a cool-looking character.
Yes.
Played by a really talented and really good actress.
Yep.
Those two things do not a character make.
Yep.
Now, mind you, she did really good with what she had, and I felt that Captain Phasma was more fleshed out in this movie
Right.
than she was in the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
But she suffers from Boba Fett syndrome, which is we saw Boba Fett once, We heard about him, through the toy and the cartoon, the cartoon that was in the holiday special, which was his first appearance.
Right, yes.
And then the toy that was the mail away thing you could get. That was this new character, and clearly he's going to be this important character. And then
he's got 3 lines in the entire movies.
Yeah, he's
the
also
movies.
a guy. He's the one guy that Darth Vader points out, and no disintegrations.
Right.
Oh man, this guy must be a badass, and he's going to be the one hunting Han Solo. And oh man, I can't wait to see. Oh, he went out like a bitch.
He got knocked in the Sarlacc pit.
Well, now we have to rewrite it so that he escaped the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, right.
Because Boba Fett can't go out like that.
Yeah. For that matter, Jango Fett got taken out like a bitch.
Yeah.
Once Mace Windu.
Like father, like son.
Right. Is that, he was all just like, pew, 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 Obi-Wan, pew, 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 pew. I got the advantages, and I got pew, 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 pew. And then the one time that he went up against Mace Windu's just like, whoop, pop. And
Hats off to you, motherfucker.
Yep, there goes your head. Fucking asshole. A lot of the bemoaning of Phasma I don't understand. I thought that they could have given Rose a little bit more character time.
Yeah.
Since she's the one who ends up kind of being Finn's major foil, I feel like since he's growing, that she's very stable, that she doesn't really learn any lessons or really do anything. She does things, but she doesn't. She's just very solid character, and I feel like I would like to either have her have a little bit more character or know a little bit more about her.
So here's my thing with her character. And I actually love her character very much. I think she's a great new character.
Okay.
She's the fans. She's a fangirl. Like that. No, legitimately.
No, okay.
Like
I see that.
Even when she shows up, she is a fangirl.
Right.
And she's basically there saying, "Hey, you characters are fucking up. This is how you're supposed to act."
Yeah.
And they don't listen to her.
Yeah.
And they fuck up more.
Yeah.
Now, there are probably fans out there going, well, clearly that means that the fans are right, and if they don't listen to us, that, they're just going to fuck up more with this franchise. And that's not what the message was.
Yeah.
But she is the embodiment of the best of the fan base.
Okay.
And of all that is good about the franchise.
Yeah.
She is that allegory. Is she a perfect character? No. But, she does make mistakes herself. I mean, she goes off on this wild mission.
Right.
For whatever reason. But, and also, doesn't really, she fucks up just as bad as. But also, she's also kind of setting introducing Finn that there is a larger problem at whole. Like, that her purpose is to teach Finn, if anything.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not like what she's there to do, but as a story plot point or whatever, story character, she is there to be the one to teach Finn how to be the Finn that we all think he actually is in our mind.
Yeah. What do you think about just the structure in general? I've looked at it a bunch of different ways. And I think that it's got I think that the length draws out your first act a little bit longer than it needs to be. But I still think it hangs together as a movie with a beginning, a middle, and end, and enough action sequences and turns to go.
At no point do I look at my watch going, man, I really wish this movie would just get going.
Right.
Like, at no point am I looking at my watch going, this movie's just crawling.
Yeah.
Crawling.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have a very slow first act. I would even say first half. Mm-hmm. And then it starts to kind of pick up in the third quarter, and then the final quarter just kind of kicks into gear and starts really things start happening.
I guess I'm trying to think of some of the other problems that I see people.
It's a very slow burn. Yeah. And it's one of those things that I feel like you don't really feel it until the credits are up and you're looking at your watch going, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, oh man, that, goddamn. But while you're watching it, it flows pretty well. I do feel like, and I've said this in other places, but I do feel like you could probably shave a couple of minutes here or a minute here without removing any of the plot points that happen, without removing anything that is important to the film, but you can shave a couple seconds on this scene or things like that. And
I can see cutting. I could probably cut 5 or 6 minutes out of Canto Bight. The horse escape was okay, but probably just didn't need to go on quite as long as it did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Speaking of Canto Bight, how about that kid at the end of the movie? Do you think he's going to be the brand new character that saves the entire rebellion in episode 9? No, he was there just to show that anybody can have a Jedi power.
Yeah.
He was there to bring us back to not being a Skywalker dynasty of Jedis, that anybody has power with the Force. That was what Luke Skywalker was trying to tell you, is that the Force is for everybody,
and actually,
not just for Jedis.
And this is the thing, I actually feel like the title Force Awakens, the first movie, wasn't talking about, the Force Awakens because this is a new franchise and this is the new trilogy and it's back and we're bringing back, light side Jedi and dark side Jedi and it's all back, the war's back on because it's awakened.
Yeah.
That wasn't what it was saying. It was saying that the people who normally were not attuned to the Force, or maybe not strongly attuned to the Force, were now starting to become, which I also think is why Rey just suddenly, and that's also why I think that it's actually perfect that her parents are nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody important.
Anakin Skywalker didn't have a dad. He was fucking Force
he's
Jesus.
A weird, that's another thing entirely, though.
Maybe she's Force Jesus too.
No,
the sequel.
But it's my point is that it's more of a it was there to show that the Force is becoming more prevalent with other people.
Sure.
Because there shouldn't be the Jedis weren't right, the Sith weren't right.
Yeah.
They were actually both wrong because it should be a balance between all things.
Or that
there is nothing that is inherently evil or nothing good. They were just fucking on the as far extremes of the spectrum.
Or that the Jedi did good things, but there's no such thing as one frame of mind that's right for every era, forever, for all time, and then everything.
Also, the Jedis were a religion.
Right.
And they've always said that the Force was a religion, which the point of this thing is the Force is not a religion. The Force is just a thing that is.
Yeah.
The Jedis were a religion.
Yeah.
The Sith were a religion in a way. They're essentially
like a culture, sort of. Anyway, yeah.
But it's just that's the thing, is that religion isn't the answer. It's finding the peace within yourself, the balance within yourself.
Or, learning, growing, and having a fucking space adventure where you get to see some cool stuff, and there's a planet with a bunch of salt on it and big monkey walkers, and Luke Skywalker wasn't there. A lot of people felt real upset about Luke Skywalker not physically going to the planet for the last battle.
Even though he couldn't.
I think that... Okay, there's one more thing to maybe talk about before we wrap this up.
Okay.
And that is the twisty misdirection, the constant twisty misdirection. I talked to Jason about this, and he said that he started to get a little bit tired of the twisty misdirection. Now, personally, I thought it was interesting because the movie has parallels to Empire and Jedi, the way that Episode 7 has parallels to A New Hope, but they keep moving the targets around that I was like, oh, okay, well, this is that beat from Empire, so this is what's going to happen. And it's like, no, that's not what's going to happen. But then sometimes they do a thing like with I didn't think they were going to cut Snoke in half. Right? Yeah. It had been so twisty that when they got the thing turned, I'm like, oh, here it comes. Here's the twist where Snoke is like, you thought you, and then like him and Kylo Ren and Rey have to flee as Jedis because he tried to kill his master, but he didn't succeed. Oh no, he did. Oh, he did. Oh, he actually did do it. So there was a lot of parts where using my own expectation of what I've seen from those previous scenes against me worked, and then I almost felt like there were plenty of times where they used the fact that I thought that every time they were going to do the opposite, and then sometimes they didn't do the opposite, and so I was just constantly unable to predict what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that kept it very
It's
refreshing to me, and it never irritated me as just like, oh well, this guy's manipulating me by fucking with my expectations. It was, if you're gonna go for nostalgia, I'd rather you do that. I'd rather you use my nostalgia against me to make something that keeps me off balance than just kind of hit the same beats over and over again that I've already seen in a previous story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it. Do you want to do anything? Any last thoughts, John?
I mean, if there was any complaints that I saw that that really bothered me, is the complaint about the dice.
Oh, yeah.
About like, oh, how could he transfer a physical object across? And the thing is, he didn't, because people clearly weren't watching the following scene where Kylo Ren and the troopers come into the base, and Kylo picks up the things and they disappear.
Right.
And it's like, he didn't transport a thing. That was all part of the illusion, folks. That's why Leia left them behind, is because she knew they weren't real.
Yeah. Ooh, I got another one. Real fast. I don't know how many people I've seen. Okay, this is just a couple of real quick beats. I'm sorry. You finish. I just got excited.
But there's actually an interesting thing with people who are wondering, like, why were the dice so important?
Right.
They were actually in the original trilogy.
Right.
And apparently there was also a cut scene from Force Awakens.
Okay.
That about when Han got back on the Millennium Falcon, that he put the dice back up.
Oh, okay.
And apparently Rain saw that and went, I'm going to use that. And then when the movie came out, the scene was cut. So now all of the stuff that he had already written kind of did make sense, but he said fuck it and kept it in anyways.
Okay.
So it's why it's a little bit more focus on that one, and previously that kind of comes out of nowhere. But
okay. Two more quick things. You know what? I just want to try to reiterate here that I'm not trying. This is one of the first times where people have been. If you don't like this movie, I'm not trying to make you like it.
Yeah, nothing we said is going to make you like it.
If you like this movie, if you dislike this movie, I'm not trying to say that you're dumb or anything. I'm not trying to point out, like I said before, once your suspension of disbelief gets cracked, that's it. That's it. It's a fragile thing. Nobody's going to repair it. And this movie isn't going to become better. I mean, maybe you don't watch it for a few years, then you go back and you're like, oh, I like this more than I thought. But by complaining about the complaining, it's not my intention to try to bully people into liking the movie, because they obviously are not going to.
Yeah, and also a lot of the complaints I do understand. Like, I have a friend that is a writer. It is not Jason Murphy or anybody that Rage Select would know.
Right.
But he did not like it.
Yeah.
But he's like, I did not like it from a story structure standpoint.
Okay.
I also didn't like it from a storytelling standpoint. And he went into more details with me after I saw it. And I can't fault him for any of his thoughts on it. I disagree with him on certain aspects, and I've told him stuff, and he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And his thing is, I don't fault you for liking it. You're totally okay with liking it. I have my reasons for not liking it, some of which I know ahead of time are a little bit ridiculous because of the type of person I am.
Right.
But I don't like this movie.
Sure.
And I'm like, cool.
You don't have to. You don't have to. Yeah, and I just want to make sure that, because I feel like the only time that I've really been, because I've watched a lot of videos about people complaining about this, to the point where that's all that YouTube will try to show me to watch anymore, and I'm just like, come on, YouTube. But the only time that it bugs me is when people frame it. It's not even like nobody makes this explicit argument, but when it's framed in the thing like, fucking Princess Leia flies through the air like Mary Poppins, and I laugh my ass off. If you liked that, what are you, stupid or something? And it's like, well, no, I just liked it because it didn't bother me that the space wizards were able to use the invisible fiction magic to fly through space one time in a situation that we've never seen before in any of the movies ever.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that didn't bother me so much, but...
Also, I had a friend that actually was really upset about the dice thing and about the Luke reveal and everything.
Yeah.
That he actually he did actually miss the scene where Kylo Ren, because he was just like what the fuck, just kind of, he stopped paying attention to the movie because of how upset he was.
Right.
And so he totally missed the scene where Kylo Ren picks up the dice and they disappear. And that's why a lot of people, and again, I'm not saying people out there need to do this, but that's why a lot of reviewers and a lot of people out there are saying, go see it twice. Because even if you liked it, there's bound to be stuff that because you were so flabbergasted over the fact that something happened that you didn't expect,
Right.
that you are bound. I'm sure there are like 5 or 6 things that I've missed.
Well, I had one of those, for example, where there was somebody who talked about at the very beginning of the scene with the bombers. I don't really care that the dropping of bombs in space, whatever, a gravity shunt. I don't care. Whatever. You make up a sci-fi term. But they said, how are these bombers supposed to drop their bombs when their bombs blow up, it just blows up the ship? But the last bomber, when it drops its bombs, the bombs hit a specific part of the dreadnought that then explodes upwards and hits the bomber and blows up. Also, that bomber's pilot was gone by that time, and it could have been flying higher. In any case, stuff like that. I do think that there have been a few points where people have said, well, there was a point where somebody was like, how the fuck did Rey get back to the fleet from she fought, she was in the throne room with Kylo Ren, and then Holdo hits the ship, and then the ship gets fucked up, and then suddenly she's gone, and suddenly she's back on the Rebel ship. How the fuck did that happen? And I was like, well, there's a line when Hux comes in where he says the girl stole Snoke's personal escape craft. So that's how that happened.
Yeah.
And even though that's a thing where somebody was like, this is a plot hole, and it's like, but they said what that is. In any case, the last thing, I just want to emphasize that because I hate the idea that it's like, that there's one right opinion about Star Wars The Last Jedi. That like, you're like, rabble, it was bad. And I'm like, no, it was good. And it's like, now we have to fight until one of us is dead. And then whoever dies, they were wrong, You can like it, and I cannot like it. I can like it, you cannot like it. Everybody can like whatever the fuck everybody likes. I like Speed Racer. Come at me. I don't even think that all 3 of those Matrix movies are quite as bad as people make them out to be. Even at the end of the second one where it gets all stupid metaphysical. I liked that movie. Anyway, the last little thing, though, that I'd like to talk about before we go is porgs.
Porgs!
Because I don't know how many of these people who didn't like The Last Jedi specifically were like, stop trying to make porgs a thing. You're shoving porgs down my throat every 12 seconds. Porgs. I'm like, there's like 4 porg scenes in the entire movie, and I don't got any problem with them.
What I think is hilarious, most of the people that I know, I actually haven't seen anyone complaining about porgs.
Oh, yeah?
Most of the people that I know complained before the movie came out. Were like, oh, they're going to shove it down our throat. It's going to be the next Jar Jar Binks, kind of thing. But everyone I know who saw it, everyone I know who hated it is like, but porgs are cool. I like porgs. I'm okay with porgs.
Yeah.
Like it seemed to me, from my point of view, it seems like everyone hates the new Star Wars. It's like that movie's terrible, except the porgs are actually kind of cool.
I like those porgs.
Yeah, those porgs are okay. They're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. But that was the only thing.
Also, I'm still trying to figure out, as much as I'll defend this movie, I'm still trying to figure out, okay, listen, Luke Skywalker's on an island. He needs to get some calcium. He's got to get that green milk. But what's with that weird scene after he's milking that big sitting down dinosaur thing, where that thing like looks at Rey like, this is the best part of my whole day. And then she looks away embarrassed like, oh God, don't look at me when Luke Skywalker's milking your udders, you weird dinosaur.
Yeah, that was a weird scene.
Also, can we just ask, do we just take this little episode out on the question, John, is Chewbacca vegetarian now?
I don't know. Probably not.
Did he actually eat that porg?
Oh no, he probably didn't eat that porg.
Yeah,
but
and he got all the porgs on the Millennium Falcon.
I'm sure he's never going to eat pork again. But I'm sure there's other meats he'll probably eat.
Okay, so the next time the Ewoks string up a carcass, he's still going to go for it and get trapped in the net.
Pretty much.
All right, fair enough. Well, yeah. Hey, everybody, that's been John and I talking about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I don't know. I'm sure that there's going to be just a lot of people who are incensed. How could you possibly like this movie? All I could say is that I did.
Yeah, I liked it too. I mean, I wish I could have been here to been like the dissenting opinion to tell you why you're wrong at every turn, but in actuality, it's just like, no, it's cool.
I liked it. In fact, I liked it a lot. In fact, I liked it so much that I hope that they continue on in this direction, and I'm excited if Rian Johnson has his own 3-movie arc, that it's something that's destructive and disruptive like this is, instead of another fucking Death Star movie. Like the last 2 movies been about the Death Star. I'm tired of Death Stars. No more Death Stars. No more Death Stars. Anyway, let us know how wrong we are down in the comments, and let us know all the reasons why we should dislike this movie. I'm still waiting for somebody to make an argument that actually makes me not like the movie any more than I do, because I just really like it. So thank you, John, for sticking around and talking about Star Wars.
No problem.
Bye, everybody.